Steve's Game Blog.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Happy Steve, Angry Steve podcast. My name is Stephen Bogos. I'm Angry Steve, and I'm joined by my co-host, Stephen Thompson. How are you doing today, Steve?
Doing good. I'm happy to be here.
And today we're talking about the Xbox One, which was recently revealed by Microsoft. Let's start with the name. What do you think of it?
Yeah, I guess if they had gone for, a doubling sort of thing, they would have just had to keep doing it exponentially until we wound up, into the quadruple digits.
I was hearing like Xbox Infinity around before it actually got released, and I thought that would have been a pretty cool name, but I guess that's kind of putting themselves into a tunnel.
Yeah, so I guess, I'm not sure where they would go from here, though. Are they setting themselves up for new numbering, or are they going to ditch the Xbox moniker?
I guess. And also, the implication I feel that they're going for here is like the Xbox One, as in it's the one device that you need under your TV that does everything.
Yeah, and it certainly looks like a set-top box.
Yeah, and with all the new TV features and HDMI in and out, that's actually something that I really think is a pretty cool feature, because if I have a tablet or something, I can plug it straight into the Xbox instead of having to fiddle around with all the cables and whatnot behind it.
Yeah, and that's a very tangible move too towards actually making it into a set-top box. It's not something that's connected separately to your TV like all the other devices, actually running through your connection.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that plays out for it. Well, let's talk a bit about the big feature, I guess, is the whole it being a set-top box, and it wants to be in control of your living room, basically with an extended array of new TV streams, such as what do we got? We got the HBO Go, we got Netflix, we got everything. Well, that's all stuff that like the Xbox 360 already did, right?
Yeah, so I'm curious as to see if they're going to be pushing the multitasking more than anything, or if these are going to be sort of standalone apps, or if we're going for like a really full integration.
That's right. You were telling me before about the snap mode and how you can use two apps at the same time.
Yeah, so I guess they're doing the ability to simultaneously run any two apps, or at least the ones that they talked about were, your TV and a game, or internet radio and a game. I'm not sure what you can do outside of gaming, or if you can do, your TV and internet radio, or any of those sorts of things.
I guess as a console gamer, it kind of breaks a bit more ground. But for me, like right now, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 8 applications running at the same time. So trying to wow me with you can run 2 at the same time is a bit of a bad sell.
Maybe they're trying to take baby steps. Everybody's a bit behind us console gamers.
I suppose the one thing I always have complained about with console gaming is that I feel so disconnected from everything. If I'm playing a game on PC, I'm just like an alt tab away from checking my Facebook or looking up a walkthrough or a wiki or anything like that. But unlike the console, I just feel really isolated.
Yeah, and I guess that is interesting, but like I wonder philosophically if focusing your attention on the game and on the console, if that's not better than tabbing between all these different applications, watching Mad Men while running through your campaign.
I guess, unless you're achievement hunting and just kind of doing mindless stuff.
That's true, and that's the kind of thing where like I feel like this would be really valuable to those kind of things that just take a long time, or something that you're repeating for the billionth time. I know I would have appreciated it for planet scanning in Mass Effect.
Did they get rid of that in the third one?
The third, it was simplified. Like it was more. You find out which planets actually have interesting things, and you go there and you do a little like radar, getting hotter, getting colder sort of thing.
That's right. You didn't have to actually go down to the planets every time.
And you didn't have to like rub your mouse all over the surface of a planet like you did too.
Yeah, that was a little less fun than it could have been.
I mean, it was certainly time consuming. So I think, if Snap is kind of aiming for something like that, I could definitely be interesting. Or somebody had mentioned, waiting in lobbies, that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, something else I was looking at is the new matchmaking system. It's called match something. Hang on, I was writing about it before. Smart Match, and
Smart match.
yeah, basically, as well as greatly improving your standard matchmaking, it also allows you to do other stuff while your matchmaking is working.
What
So,
what what sort of other stuff?
so you can play other games, watch TVs. Basically, you can run other apps on your Xbox while the matchmaking for a game is running. So let's say you want to play, some COD multiplayer. You join a matchmaking lobby, and then you Alt tab. I guess it's basically like an Alt tab into TV and watch TV until it finds a match for you.
And do you wonder, are they going to be keeping both screens up, or is it the kind of thing where you have to switch back and forth to keep checking on your progress?
I don't know, actually. Well, I think it would be really cool if you had, if you could put it like your TV or whatever in the full screen, like a little notification would pop up when it's found the match for you.
Something like that would be really good.
Yeah. Also, another thing revealed with this smart match is they said that, and obviously the wording in their whole conference was really kind of PR speak, very careful not to say anything concrete. And this is no different for the smart match thing. They said that thanks to the power of the cloud, your favorite matches are always running behind the scenes, so you can quickly find people you like to play with most.
That is interesting.
What this suggests to me is if you're playing, let's say you're playing Call of Duty single player, there's matchmaking constantly going on in the background so that if you want to play multiplayer, you can switch over to the multiplayer and it's like, hey, we've already got a match for you.
So matches by people that you've played with before, ones that are on your friends list, they'll keep those kind of running down in the background?
Well, it says people you like to play with most, and it did talk about how the smart match is being re-engineered to make matches based on reputation. And I don't know if you've had an Xbox 360 before, but rep is like after you play with someone, you give them reputation if you liked playing with them, or you take away reputation from them if you didn't like playing with them.
Yeah, I didn't know about that system.
But this also pulls us right back into the whole always online but not always online thing. And this sounds very much like an always online feature.
Yeah, that would definitely, and you wonder how much, overall bandwidth, I mean, how this is going to affect if you're, for instance, trying to download a game at the same time that you're fielding Skype calls or running these multiplayer matches in the background, in addition to everything else. I know I had seen something that the system's planning to use 3 different operating system kernels in order to juggle all these kind of things.
Yeah, and I'm sure it has the processing power, but the big thing, like you said, is bandwidth. I mean, not everyone lives in Japan like us, where we have amazing internet for relatively cheap.
Yeah. So I mean, if your bandwidth is getting eaten up, especially if you have other people all sharing that connection, which they want this to be a living room kind of box. I'm just wondering how they're going to divvy up that sort of workload.
All right. Well, while we're on it, why don't we talk a bit about always online?
Yeah. So let's see, because that was probably the most talked about feature of the console way before it was even announced. I think the minute the blood hit the water on that, it was all people could talk about.
Yeah. And again, due to very clever, careful wording, it was kind of confirmed that it wouldn't have it, but also kind of confirmed that it would have it.
That seems to be the case. There was a lot of saying it's not how you think it is, but we're not going to talk about what it actually is.
Yeah.
I think they tried to at least put the issue of playing used games to bed, because I think that was probably the thing that everyone was most up in arms about, was, you know, being able to play used games. And I know a lot, you know, your secondhand video game stores were all kind of waiting with bated breath about that.
Actually, I am. I just read something recently, actually. I don't know if you heard about this, about the fees that secondhand, there'll be like a fee if you want to install a secondhand game on your hard drive.
Is that what they're looking on doing?
Yes, according to this article, secondhand installs may incur a fee that's equivalent to a brand new purchase of the game.
Wow. So,
but again, this is
equivalent to the brand new purchase?
The exact wording you said was, hang on. It was asked by Kotaku whether the second-hand owner will be paying the same price as the original buyer paid. And Phil Harrison, who's Microsoft Corporate Vice President, said, "Let's assume it's a new game, so the answer is yes, it will be the same price." But again, we are hearing...
enforcing that becomes interesting.
It does become interesting, and that's when all the piracy stuff is going to start cropping up.
Yeah, so...
also...
Because I know they had tried to dispel that.
They did. Well, they said, yes, it will play used games. It will say, yes, you can play used games on your Xbox 360. But they didn't really seem to talk about how it would work, because so all games are going to have a mandatory install on the Xbox One. And you can choose to play the game with the disc inserted, but you can also choose to register the game to your account, which means you can play it without the disc inserted. Excuse me. And obviously, this is where the kind of like the gray area is appearing, because what's stopping people from just installing the game onto their system and then giving the disc out to all their friends?
Yeah, so it's going to have to be some kind of, you know, one game locked to one account, which would suggest that there would also be a deauthorization process involved. And then that creates an interesting situation, I think, for the used game retailers, in that, you know, how do you ensure that this game you're going to pay somebody for, that you're going to buy and take in, has been deauthorized?
Yeah, you're right. What I'm thinking of doing is what I'm thinking that they're going to do is, we all know that publishers and console manufacturers don't like used games. I mean, they don't see any of the profits from them, so they don't like them. If it was up to them, they'd probably get rid of them entirely, but, you know, the backlash that it would create would be insane. So what I think that we're looking at now is Microsoft are trying to muscle in over the retailers. So they're going to say, yeah, you can buy a used game, but you're going to have to pay us a fee to play it.
Yeah, so they want to try and see at least some of that money back, and apparently equivalent to about what they would want to see from a new game sale.
Well, that's, again, it's very odd, careful wording. We can't say anything for sure right now. All right.
Yeah.
So moving on from, I guess those were the two big issues, and they didn't answer them at all. Like, they kind of did, and then kind of didn't, and there were conflicting reports, and they backtracked, and it's just a whole big mess.
Yeah, it seems like they addressed a lot of these features that we didn't even have much of rumors of, you know, things like Snap and the integration with the television, those sorts of things. But as far as, those big talking points that had been all over the internet. They were definitely addressing them, but not answering them.
All right, so I've been pretty negative lately. Is my spiel? Tell me about stuff you're impressed with the Xbox One, Steve.
Oh, one of the, I mean, it's a small feature, but one of the things that I thought was good coming from that ability to switch between apps is Skype integration. Microsoft purchased Skype a few years ago, and I'm sure they've been looking to do something a little more forward with that. So they've been talking about picture-in-picture calling, specifically during games, and kind of building on what Xbox does really well, which is community and friend integration and those sorts of chats and matchmaking. Having video calling could be a really, really interesting feature, and one of those things that kind of sells something as futuristic or some kind of shiny new tech. It's really easy to put on a box and hype that kind of thing up.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically pretty much every sci-fi movie you've ever seen at some point has a character using some kind of computer program and someone's face popping up in the bottom corner, as they call them.
Yeah. And I guess while we're on that, they look to be introducing a lot more voice control, since the Kinect 2.0 will be in every single box.
Yeah, I saw that, and I guess one of the biggest problems with the Kinect was that no one really cared about it with the Xbox 360. As much as they pushed it, the fact that it wasn't compulsory and that not enough people had it meant that we didn't really see it getting built on the way that they kind of expected it to.
Yeah, and if you're going to integrate features into your base user interface, if you're going to try and really push for it, it has to be installed in every console. It has to be a default sort of thing.
Yeah.
You can't shoot for a fraction of your install base.
Yes. It's the same.
So I mean, yeah.
I'm just saying that the Kinect is essentially the exact same problem that the Wii had towards the end of its life cycle with the Motion Plus.
Yes.
It wasn't compulsory, so not a lot of people had it, which meant that developers weren't developing for it because you want to be able to include all of your user base.
Yeah, you really don't want to miss out on a potential sale just because someone says, well, I don't have the Wii Motion Plus or I don't have Kinect. I mean, I'm sure several of Sony's Move titles, sold at much lower numbers than they would have if Move were installed in every single PlayStation 3 unit.
And speaking of the Kinect, something I read which is kind of cool and also a little creepy is there's apparently an infrared camera on the Xbox One controller. So it recognizes who's using the controller and sets the layout to however you like it.
Really? So Kinect, because they had talked about that with the first Kinect, that one of the possibilities for it would be to identify you by your face and voice and load up your user profile. That was one of the rumored features and something that was discussed a lot. So I wonder if they're moving towards something like that. Identifying a user, bringing up their profile, and adjusting their controller for how they like, for instance, for left-handed gamers or that sort of thing.
Yeah. Speaking of the controller, it looks like they've gone pretty much the Sony route of if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and it looks pretty much the same. Apparently, there's a lot more going on the inside, but as far as the way it looks and would feel ergonomically, it seems pretty similar to the Xbox 360 controller.
Yeah, although I'm not sure what possessed them to add that little glossy bit at the top. I'm not a huge fan of them.
That's the camera,
chunk
apparently.
there. That's the camera.
Yeah, that's the camera in there.
To interface with the Kinect 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, it creates a very weird line on it, I suppose, just from a design standpoint. It seems like quite a jarring difference in texture and in color.
Well, they're going for, I guess. Well, I guess the image that everyone had of the Xbox 360 was white, right?
True.
I mean, they did have, I guess they had the black Elite towards the end of its life cycle, but when people think Xbox 360, they think, the white model.
Yeah, its standard console was white.
Mm. Oh, all right, moving
And then we
on.
have
Oh, sorry, no, go on.
we have our impulse triggers. Triggers with a built-in rumble.
What's that? Sorry, enlighten me.
So their new triggers are going to have their own individual rumble motors divvied into the gamepad in addition to an overall rumble, and these are being branded impulse triggers
Wait, hang
that
on.
that will
So
respond.
the trigger rumbles when you press it, like the trigger itself. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and they showed off a demo to kind of highlight this, which included recoil from a weapon or kind of like a jarring motion for a driving.
Well, I guess that is pretty cool. I mean, Rumble, in terms of like tactical feedback, like Rumble is probably the biggest innovation we've had like since gaming actually happened. Like nothing else has really stuck. So if you're gonna use Rumble, you might as well try to use it as much as you can to its best, to the best you can.
Absolutely, and some developers have really capitalized on using Rumble as sort of an immersive tool. Of course, when you talk about immersion, Quantic Dream always seems to come up, but they did use Rumble to great effect.
If I remember correctly, Metal Gear Solid 4 used the rumble feature, like the controller would rumble if you were within detection range, and like
Okay, yeah.
the closer you, well, basically like the more danger you're in of being detected, the more the controller would rumble. So there's that. There's the controller. It looks pretty good. I can't really complain too much about it. It looks like there is there's two new buttons. One looks like a menu button, and the other one could possibly be the Xbox equivalent of the PlayStation Share button.
Yeah, there was discussion about that, but as far as I could see, it didn't actually come up in the conference, did it?
No, it didn't.
Yeah, it's I can't seem to find a really good look at them because of all the high definition gloss on this thing.
Oh man. All right. So, what do you think of what's actually inside the hardware of the console? I don't know if you've had a look at it.
Yeah, so I've been looking at the hardware. They were not at all shy about showing it off compared to Sony, which hasn't really shown us anything. And I think since they were going second, they needed to show a bit more of their hand with that.
Yeah, including actually showing what the actual box looks like.
Yeah, sure, showing us the overall form. Is that a final design?
It looks to be a final design. There'll probably be, some minor tweaks before it comes out, but it's probably more or less what it'll look like.
Yeah, just looking over the features that they have here, they seem to be more or less comparable to what we're seeing from the PS3, and those two consoles have always been, neither one's been really eclipsing the other. Seems like one of the biggest differences might be the DDR3 RAM versus the DDR5 RAM.
That's actually true. Although we've yet to see exactly what DDR5 can do. The big problem is, even if it is like a huge eclipse, the exact same problem we're going to see is the same problem that happened with this generation, is that developers are just going to develop for the lowest common denominator. So even if the PS4 turns out to be significantly more powerful than the Xbox One, in the long run, it's not really going to matter that much because the multi-platform games are all going to be built for the least powerful machine.
True. Would having a DDR5 architecture make it any easier for like cross-platforming with PC or anything? Like, would we see ports coming from PS4 to PC any easier?
I don't think GDDR5 is as common or popular on the PC yet. That was one thing that was kind of strange about the PS4. They said they were going for something that's a lot more PC friendly, and then they picked the GDDR5, which was a bit odd. It looks like the Xbox One has a more standard, just regular DDR3 RAM. But again, even though it looks like they've told us a lot, they haven't really told us that much. I mean, 8-core CPU. Just to put things into perspective for you, currently on Amazon you can buy an 8-core CPU. It's the AMD, where is it? AMD's FX 8150, and that's $200. But also, there's another 8-core CPU, which is Intel's Xenon, and that's over $2,000.
Is there a really significant processing difference between that?
Yes, there is a very significant processing difference, and until we know the clock rates and other details about the CPU, it's really difficult to tell how powerful it's going to actually be. I mean, 8-core sounds very impressive, but for example, I have a quad core it's the Intel i7 in my PC right now, and that outperforms a lot of AMD's 8-core CPUs because it's got a much faster clock rate.
Yeah, so that'll definitely be something. And I suppose they can't show everything, at the moment because Sony still has some reveals to make at E3, and I'm sure Microsoft still wants to have some things to show off at E3. That way, they can try and capture as much of that hype and get as many headlines onto the sites as possible.
Yeah. The other specs though are generally pretty solid. I mean, the 500 gig hard drive is a godsend. I'm sure people are sick of having to deal with I was crazy for the Xbox 360. It was like something like $150 for like a 20 gig hard drive or something.
Yeah, those are the kind of prices that you were seeing, and these were also they were non-standard hard drives, which made it somewhat difficult to upgrade the 360's hard drives unless you were buying an actual proprietary that big snap-on unit for the end there.
Yeah, well, it looks like it's got just looking from the back, 2 or 4, maybe is that 4? No, that's HDMI. It looks like it's got 2 USB 3 ports on the back. So we'll yet to see if it'll work with just standard USB 3 hard drives.
Yeah, and especially since they're looking at mandatory game installs and running the games sans disk. Being able to have a hard drive could make things much better, especially if you're talking external hard drives and bringing those games around with you. Being able to sign into your account and connect to the game that you purchased and installed on a different console, providing you can authorize it.
That's right. The only real wild card we have now is ironically the same wild card that we have from Sony's PS4, and that's what kind of GPU it's going to use. They have told us
that
so
neither of those have been shown.
Well, it's said it's going to be combined with the CPU. It's based on AMD's Jaguar design, which means the GPU and the CPU are combined. But other than that, we don't really know too much. I have been told that it's going to use what is it? ESRAM? ESRAM or ESRAM. This actually goes a little bit beyond my understanding of technology. I'm not quite sure how good ESRAM is.
I've certainly got me there. I have no idea myself.
Yeah, but it's basically because regularly graphics cards have onboard memory of around 512 meg to a gig, and this says it's got 32 meg of onboard eSRAM memory, which at first glance seems quite low compared to 512 to a gig. But like I said, it's a little bit beyond my understanding.
Yeah, so exactly what that means for performance. I'm sure somebody is hearing that and getting themselves very excited for the potential of eSRAM. But
all right, so
yeah,
anything else we should be talking about?
yeah. So I mean, the internals look really good, and I suppose as far as software goes, we heard boasting of 15 exclusives in the first year, 8 of them being brand new franchises.
Actually, the 8 new franchises sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah, especially towards the end of the PS3 and 360's console lives, we started to see just kind of a merging of what was exclusive, and convincing a developer to go exclusive is a bit tricky, because you're essentially talking about cutting down your potential profits.
Although exclusive is a kind of a tricky word in the industry, because you could claim something is exclusive even if it gets released for a different console at a later date. Like, you have timed exclusives these days. And a lot of a big word that they throw around is console exclusive, which means, for example, a game that releases on only one console, but it also releases on the PC.
Yes. So this is the console option for playing that game. Basically, it would just be Microsoft saying not available on the PS4.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to think of what they could be, and one game that actually came to mind is Epic Games' upcoming Fortnite. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yeah, and Epic Games is traditionally a Microsoft exclusive publisher.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And when they revealed Fortnite, they said it would be exclusive to the PC. But again, talking with the loose interpretation of the term exclusivity, it could mean it's also coming to the new Xbox as well. Would make sense.
True. Yeah, as far as other exclusives, I mean, we could see. I mean, you have iterations of kind of those those stock Microsoft series things, like, of course, your Halo and Fable. Forza, I believe, what was it? Forza 5 was actually announced as a launch title.
Yes, actually, very few actual titles were shown at this event. Were shown Forza 5, were shown Call of Duty Ghosts, and was shown what you were talking about before, Quantum Break.
Yes.
Well, I guess that's one of them right off the bat there. Quantum Break is an exclusive. It's from Remedy Games, who made Max Payne, I believe is the most famous game.
Yes, okay.
I actually didn't watch the teaser video. Did you see it?
I haven't seen it yet, no. But the Max Payne, the titles have been quite good. So we're talking about the ones before the Rockstar, the newer Rockstar entry, yeah?
Yeah. Did you play the new Max Payne 3?
I did play, yeah. I played the new one.
I mean, it was...
And I played the old ones, forever and a day ago.
Yeah. The new one was like, it was a good game, like, it wasn't bad in any way. Like, I finished it and I played through it, but I just feel like it didn't really capture the feel that those first two games had.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly had Rockstar's, I think, stamp on it, and then in a lot of ways it did feel like a Rockstar game, more than it felt like those film noir sort of cheesy Max Payne entries that we'd had that were more towards an arcade side than the gritty side.
Yeah. We also got shown a whole bunch of sports games, which I'm going to be completely honest with you, I don't really give a shit about.
How likely do you think a two human sequel will be?
Um,
Because I believe
didn't that
that
sound
studio
really
is still
bad?
exclusive. It's sold somewhat poorly.
Uh, oh yeah. So who do we have for exclusives? Because Bungie actually is the big one that's not exclusive anymore. The Halo guys.
Yeah, they announced not only are they going non-exclusive with their next entry, but they're also looking at last and next gen, I believe,
Okay.
or
Um,
current and next gen, I should say.
I had heard some rumors before the reveal event concerning Rare, and old school gamers will no doubt be jumping for joy at even the mere mention of Rare. These are the guys that brought us, Goldeneye, Banjo Kazooie, the original Donkey Kong games. But they were absorbed by Microsoft quite some time ago, and Microsoft hasn't really done too much with them.
Yeah, what was the last thing we saw from Rare?
Um, wasn't it the? Did they make a Banjo Kazooie? Banjo Tooie? Was that on Xbox? Hang on, let me just look this up. No, that was Nintendo
Yeah, let's
64
see
as
what
well.
we. Yeah, I'm looking at our lists here. Oh, they've been working on Connect Sports, is what they had them working on.
Okay.
As well as Banjo Kazooie for the 360, which was nuts and bolts, and
Okay.
then the Viva Pinata games, which actually did quite well.
Okay. I've just plugged Rare and Xbox into Google, and I've come up with an article that says the E3 showcase for Xbox will feature a one historic IP from Rare.
This upcoming E3 here,
Yes, this is upcoming E3 2013.
historic IP. I
Yeah.
mean, like one would think Banjo Kazooie, but I would say that might almost more be likely to be Perfect Dark than anything.
Perfect Dark. Actually, Perfect Dark was on the 360, right? They made Perfect Dark Zero or something.
They did. It didn't do well, but I think it got people clamoring for a good, next gen Perfect Dark game.
Mm. A GoldenEye remake wouldn't be off the cards as well. But actually, they did a GoldenEye remake not too long ago, right? It wasn't Rare though; it was someone else.
Yeah, so they had the one for the Wii that had came out that was essentially a GoldenEye update. There was a lot of hype around it, but not not a particularly good game from when I had played it. Just uh, with that kind of legendary multiplayer legacy that it had, it didn't so much deliver on that.
Mm.
GoldenEye Reloaded, I believe it was called.
Yeah. I think I played it for like a little bit and got bored.
I think that was most people's experience with it.
Yeah.
That was developed by Eurocom,
Okay.
who have done other games, I'm sure.
All right. So one thing quickly that I just picked up here, and we probably should have been talking about it because it should be a pretty big feature, is game DVR, which essentially means that your games are constantly being recorded. I believe it's up to the last 15 minutes or something. So if you do something that's like really cool, and this has happened to all of us, we're playing like Call of Duty or Team Fortress or whatever, and we get like this amazing kill streak where we kill like a million guys and do pull off some amazing shit, and of course it's lost because you weren't recording anything. This game DVR, recording like your last 15 minutes of gameplay constantly, means you can always go back and pick up that footage to upload or just review.
That's really interesting, and Sony is pursuing something similar, aren't they?
I believe so. I'm not entirely sure on that.
Yeah, I think like a constant saving of the last like 10 or 15 minutes of what you've been playing. That way, if you want to, well, Sony's big focus being on share. So if you want to take that clip and share it about. But that's interesting for Microsoft to be doing it too, because I think that is a pretty common desire. You know, when you're playing, and the only people who have seen your glorious kill streak are some random strangers.
Yeah.
So now you can put it on Facebook and make your friends care about it.
You can spam people's Facebook with kill shot videos.
Yeah, I mean, everybody likes those.
All right. Well,
yeah. So game DVR. Any plans to do like a TV DVR? I mean, have they talked about any more of their TV features at all?
Well, I believe that I think the TV DVR was kind of. Did they say anything about it? If anything, it was
because I know they showed off.
Oh, sorry, go on.
Oh, the only thing that I think I had seen from it was like sort of an integrated TV guide.
Yeah. Well, I'm assuming with all the TV centric features that they'd have some kind of DVR where you can record shows from live TV is something that they'd want to be doing. I feel like it is something that they have mentioned. I can't find a specific article on it right now.
Yes. Yeah, and it looks like they're trying to incorporate it into the overall dashboard. The sort of Windows 8 UI that they've been pushing for the whole system. Seeing like a trending and my channels and all that sort of thing being incorporated.
All right. Well, just one last thing before we wrap up is backwards compatibility. It's confirmed that it won't have backwards compatibility, but honestly, is that really a surprise?
No, I mean, I think a lot of the consoles are kind of moving away from that, and you always, it doesn't mean that you can't use your older systems, that you can't pull those out. And for the amount that these features are actually used, usually when polling gamers, it comes up that these features are used much less than they're professed to be desired.
Yeah.
So I think if anything, it's the kind of safety net that people like to have. They've invested so much money and time into this old console, and they really like not having to completely split from that investment, being able to kind of hold on to it, which is probably why a lot of people clamor for backwards compatibility.
Yeah, I mean, it's I mean, I really like having it on my Game Boy. I really liked being able to play my old DS games and my old GBA games. But as for consoles, it's not really a deal breaker for me. I don't know why. It just kind of seems like something that is expected, and I'm like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, and if this generation moves away from that, it'll slowly quiet down into how much people are asking for it. With a handheld, as you mentioned, I think it's a really important feature, and that you can't have all these consoles set up at one time. You're just carrying the one piece of hardware.
Yeah. Although it does kind of go against their philosophy of it being the one device under your TV if you've also got a Xbox 360 sitting there.
True enough, very true. And they might go ahead and push classic Xbox 360 games as downloads, since they're moving to this very digital format.
Actually, they did that towards the end with original Xbox games, didn't they?
Yeah, I believe they did with original ones.
Yeah. And well, that seems to be pretty much what all the consoles are doing these days. I mean, you've got Virtual Console on like Nintendo consoles, which has been immensely popular. And I don't really know Sony consoles well enough. Do they do anything like that?
Yeah, Sony has their PS1 classics. So it seems to be bumping back skipping a generation. There were some PS2 games maybe on
Okay.
the PlayStation 3 store. But that would probably indicate that we would see PS1 and PS2 games on the PS4, but maybe not as much PS3 games.
Okay. So let's wrap it up. Thanks for joining me, and this will be the first of hopefully many podcasts.
Hopefully we can talk about more things, and we'll have some more controversial things in which we can be happy and angry about it. I think we seem both somewhat reluctant to pass judgment on the Xbox One until we see a bit more from it.
Yeah, it's more, I guess I could say I'm angry that they didn't tell us enough. I'm angry
as long
at
as you have one thing.
Yeah, I'm angry at like their bullshit PR dodging questions tactics.
And I'm happy that I can possibly watch Netflix while I'm waiting on people to get their lobby together.
All right, well, be sure to check out my blog. I'll leave a link in the comments. And Steve is the editor of AJET magazine. Is that right?
Yeah, AJET Connect magazine.
Yeah. So you're gonna leave a link to that as well.
Absolutely. Feel free to check it out to see what's going on with the JET program in Japan.
All right. We'll see you guys next time.
And see you next time.